What's up, guys? In today's video, we are going to be playing against the next bot, Nelson. Now, in medieval times, feudal warlords could be notorious for different reasons. Maybe it was because they would heavily tax the population, tax the local populations without abatement. Maybe it was because they would be ruthless towards their enemies, show no mercy to them. But in the case of Nelson, it's bringing out your queen very early in the game, in the beginning of the game. Now, the reason in chess we don't do this is that the queen is not a one-man army, or a one-woman army, however you would like to call it, and it will get harassed if you bring it out very early in the game by the enemy pieces, which is why it's a good idea to bring it out much more later in the game once you've had, your other pieces out. But Nelson is one of those bots who go against the rules of chess and likes bringing out his queen early. In this game, I had to teach Nelson a lesson. Now, unlike my previous videos where I would play live against Nelson, that turned out to be too long because, as I said, I spend a lot of time assessing the situation, calculating different variations, right? And it just simply takes a lot of time. The last recording I did of Nelson, playing against was 40 minutes long, and I knew I wouldn't want to put a video like that on YouTube, right? If I was a viewer, I wouldn't want to watch a 40-minute chess video. So instead, I'm going to analyze the game, which has already happened, and hopefully this video won't take too long. By the way, before I start, I'm also a writer. I'm writing a fictional novel right now called The Siege of the Marshlands on Substack. You guys can follow me there. It would mean a lot to me with all the support, and to also popularize my novel. But without further ado, let's get into this game. So this time I'm playing with white. I played black 2 times, and now we are playing with white. I start off the game with h4. h4 being the Kadas opening. I hope I'm pronouncing that correctly. The point is to just get rid of theory, force both of the players to rely on pure skill. It can also be a good way to maybe launch a kingside attack. It throws off the opponents. Nelson plays e5, and I play the move e4. Now, I was quite surprised here because normally I thought, Nelson likes bringing out his queen very early in the game, and I thought he would play a move like queen to f6. He didn't, and he instead lashed out with the move d5. Quite surprised me. I thought he would bring out his queen, and here I decide to take, and the idea of the taking was that if he took, then I would be able to promptly target the queen and also gain development. He didn't take, however, and he actually sacrificed another pawn. Now, here I didn't take the bait, because if I took, then knight takes, and Nelson would be sacrificing a pawn, but he would get a very active position, and he would also get a lead in developments and really open lines. And this was something that I just didn't want to give to Nelson. And here I played the move d6. Now, that might seem a bit of a strange move. Now, my idea was, by playing d6, I wouldn't allow him to recapture the pawn. I mean, if I did, I don't know, let's say I played something like knight to f3, or not knight to f3, but let's say knight to c6. Then after he takes the pawn, he gets a full center, and he regains his pawn advantage, and he once again has a very open position, something that I didn't want to give to Nelson. By pushing the pawn in, I block in Nelson's knight, and if he decides to, let's say, take with the bishop, his bishop is on a much more passive square because it's blocked in with the bishop, whereas had it been on a square like c5, it would have been targeting the weak f2 square. So I push in the pawn. By the way, Stockfish did not like this move, but we're not going to go into what Stockfish recommended, right? I just want to analyze this game. And Nelson plays the move g5. I was going to say g4, but g5. Which really threw me off. I mean, I thought he would take, or I don't know, something like that. He just played g5 for reasons I can't really understand. I guess, he just saw this pawn just chilling on the h4 square and just wanted to challenge it. Now, I didn't take here. I just didn't really felt like it was a bit of a waste. Also, I wanted to instead develop my knight and target both of these pawns. here my opponent finally took the pawn, and I took his g5 pawn. And my idea, now another useful thing about playing h4 is it can help you anchor in pieces close towards the enemy position. And here, as you can see, I have my knight on g5, which now is targeting the f7 square. And who knows, I might be able to bring my bishop to target it, maybe even the queen, and if this f-pawn gets removed, maybe I can even bring in the rook, right? My opponent, however, quickly kicks it out. Now, I actually considered sacrificing here in order to strand the king in the middle of the board, and then later I could target it, but after calculating and looking at it for some time, I realized this wasn't very strong. I wouldn't really be able to muster much of an attack, so I dismissed this idea, instead rerouted the knight to e4, targeting the bishop and repositioning the knight on a some more central square. My opponent developed his own knight, attacking it. I reinforced my protection of my own knight, developing my own. Here, I would have probably developed my bishop, to amp up the pressure, develop my pieces. Nelson instead plays the move rook to g8, activating the rook down the diagonal, and Nelson is essentially saying, you're not going to be moving this bishop. I mean, if you do, then I'm going to take your g-pawn. However, I don't really care, and I just play the move bishop to c4 anyways. I just really want development, and honestly, I don't really care. Now, my idea is that if he takes, if he took in this position, my idea was queen to f3, which is a fork because it attacks the rook and the knight. It's actually not a fork. I thought it was a fork. Now that I'm looking at it, because he can play rook to g6 to protect the knight. But when I was calculating it, I thought it was a fork, so I thought this would be a clever sacrifice where I could go here and then put pressure, right? But I didn't see this move, rook to g6. However, he didn't take anyways. He instead played the move rook to g4, attacking my e4 knight. I played queen to f3, not only activating the queen, pressuring the knight, but I also protected my own knight. Nelson brought back his bishop, protecting his knight, and here I played the move d3, not only solidifying my bishop and knight, but also opening up my other bishop. And now, I want to develop my bishop and castle the king queenside, because while I do want to launch an attack on this king, I need to get my own king out of the center, So Nelson in this position brings back the rook, and I'm starting to think that Nelson is utilizing a hyper-modern chess concept called overprotection. This was a concept pioneered by Aaron Nimzowitsch, who was the founding father of hypermodernism, which is a school of chess. And the point of playing rook to g6, well, the point is he's defending a piece. Now, overprotection is something in where you protect a piece so many times that there's not even a remote possibility of it being captured. As you can see, Nelson has 1, 2, 3 pieces protecting it, right? He has a lot of protection, right? Meanwhile, I only have 2 attackers. I developed my bishop to e3. I didn't like the prospect of putting it on d2, where it wouldn't really be that active, and it could also block my d-file if I ever decided to activate my rooks down those diagonals. So I played bishop to e3, and I did foresee this move g4, attacking the queen. I slide to g3. Now, this looks really scary, and yes, I was a bit apprehensive of playing queen to g3, because, there might be, like, some sort of surprise attack on the queen or something, right? I'm not just saying the bishop should go to e2, but just saying. But, I looked at it and I realized there wasn't really much of a threat, and by also sliding the queen to g3, I'm also targeting the e5 pawn. Black developed his knight, and here now there's like 1, 2, 3, 4 pieces protecting the f6 knight. I play f3, and my idea is to kick out the bishop, and then I can slide to f2. Now, there was a bit of a risk here, which was that if the bishop goes here, and let's say I go to f2, he could take, and then maybe play something like knight to b6. Not only targeting the c4 pawn, but now his queen is opened up, and this would prevent me from long castling. But I thought this was fine. Because I don't need to castle queenside. I mean, it would be nice. But I could always activate my rook on the d-file, attacking the queen. I had some ideas about what I would do against this move. But anyway, that's not what happened. Instead, he slid it to f5, which I didn't really expect. I thought he would go here, challenge the bishop, and aim for this kind of plan of cutting off the king from castling alongside. So he went f5. Here, I brought back my queen because the rook was attacking it. Now, here black takes my knight. That's very important what you take with. I didn't want to take with the d pawn and once again expose my d file. I didn't want to take with the f pawn as well. I mean, wait. Actually, I also didn't want to take with the f pawn because then black could bring the bishop here and once again prevent me from castling alongside. So I took with the knight, which would not only centralize my knight, but enable me to castle alongside. Black once again takes, and which gives me the open of f-file, and plays the move rook to f6, attacking my queen. I slide the queen out of the way. I could have put it at d2, which would have also put pressure on the a7 pawn, but, you know, he could have just moved the pawn, you know? And I wanted my queen to be on a more neutral position, which was at e2, you know? I might want to bring my rooks at d2 instead, so I brought it to e2. Black then played another move I didn't really expect, which was b5, lashing out on the queen side. I brought back my bishop, and, you know, I expected him to probably pursue with a5. He actually jumped in with his knight, and here I saw something which, if I wasn't careful about, could have catastrophic consequences, all right? That sounds a bit dramatic, but really a debacle could have happened here. Now, what am I talking about? If in this position, I hastily long castle, if this is what I end up doing, black can take the bishop, takes, and not only does this damage the pawn structure, it opens up the king, it weakens the king dramatically, right? And it'll even make you ask yourself why you even castle queenside. And what can end up happening is black can launch his own attack on the queen side. And, you know, this might not look very threatening. I mean, you can just go here. But not really. Not really. Why? Black can launch these pawns forward. And it doesn't have to be like a pawn attack. Black can also play c5. And the reason this is so dangerous is because the rook can come in to a6 and prepare a checkmate threat. You might be thinking, oh, well, Karen, that's fine. You can just go to c3 and you just have this safe little bunker here. That's not the case, because black has two pawns on b5, c5, right? Even if this attack doesn't immediately succeed, then black's going to just start trying to shred open the position by just, you know, launching these pawns forward. Black has the bishop, soon the rook, the queen, right, and these pawns, and potentially this rook as well, right? This would be catastrophic. Now, not wanting that, I decided to quickly take the knight. Problem is that I ended up giving black a very powerful knight, and I didn't see that he could jump into f2. After castling, that's exactly what he did, getting his rook on the second rank. I jumped into h5, hoping that I could have some sort of counterattack here, and I also didn't see this move, queen to f6. And now black has dominance over the f-file. But, you know, there is one thing to be there are a few things to be hopeful about. One is that this rook isn't active yet, and this king is also still in the center of the board. You know, so my king is still relatively safe compared to this king. I play rook to h3, hoping to play f3 and just disconnect these pieces, get a trade. And Nelson, after playing so well, plays a really absurd move, plays the move king to f8. I really don't know what his motive was behind this move. Like, sometimes bots just play stupid moves, you know. No offense to Nelson, but this is just something that bots do at times, right? They play really good and then, like maybe malfunction or something. Like here, I would have tried to activate this other rook, right? You know, try to get the other rook, or maybe get this king to safety, you know, something like that. But, you know, Nelson doesn't do that. Nelson moves the king, which gives me a perfect opportunity to play rook to f3. After a quick trade, and I'd said to trade off queens here. Here, I could have taken with the pawn, but, you know, I didn't want there to be the queens on the board. Then the position would have been very tense, right? So I decided to simplify the queens as well, and now we transition into an endgame. I think before that this was a middle game, but soon after the pair of rooks and the queens were traded off, I think now we have transitions into the endgame. Now I cannot explain to you or describe what a painstaking and difficult endgame this was. All right. Because I'll try not to take too much time on it, but essentially, here's what I'll just tell you. He checks me, I move my king to the side, and this bishop ends up being very annoying. I soon very quickly regret taking that knight, which allowed his bishop to just worm into my position. He plays rook to b8. I'm trying to kick out this bishop, but he's very inclined in staying there. And it's kind of difficult because I want to gain dominance of the g-file and not allow black to ever gain control, because if then that happened, oh god, Lord knows what would happen. I play rook to h1. He's meanwhile heaving these pawns towards the queen side, which is a bit alarming considering the fact that my bishop's here, but I just played the move a3. He plays a4, and my bishop is all safe and snug in this corner in a2. He plays rook to a8. Again, another very nonsensical move. Here I play the move h5, getting my pawn off the dark square and out of the vision of the bishop, and maybe to also kind of create some room to maneuver around the position. He plays the move b4, challenging my pawn. Now, I didn't want him to take and then isolate my pawn structure. I just didn't want this to happen. So I took, and then he brings back the bishop very quickly. And here I make a pawn sacrifice. I'm thinking, well, I'm already up a pawn. So I decided to play the move f4, sacrificing the pawn. My idea was that when he takes, I'll be able to somehow, maybe play rook to f1, right? I need to start activating my piece, right? My rook right now is very passive. I mean, it's literally just looking into the h5 pawn, right? It's not very active. So after I won this pawn, I was willing to give away the other pawn. But he didn't take. He actually played a3, which is surprising. I just took, takes. Now, here, I just have to not move the bishop, or else then it's checkmate, and that's the end of the game, and then I'm going to have to post this embarrassing video of losing to a 1300 bot who likes bringing out his queen early in the game, and, well, yeah, that would definitely be a stain on my reputation as a chess player. So I instead take the pawn, being careful not to move the bishop and end up getting checkmated. Black plays the move rook to a4, targeting my pawn, which I am all but too glad to give to him, and play the move rook to f1, lining up an attack. Now Nelson could have gone back to protect this, but Nelson decided to sacrifice his pawn and let it die, and wanted my b4 pawn instead. I went to b3. Now he could still protect it. He doesn't do this, and instead plays the move c3. For some reason, I don't really know. And I just take the pawn, right? And this is really bad because I'm up 3 pawns, and I also have a passed pawn, 2 in fact, if we're counting the doubled pawns. And then I bring back the rook, forking these 2. Black, rather than trying to defend at least one, gives up both of them. Nelson was feeling quite generous at the time, though I'm sure he regretted it very soon afterwards. I end up taking his pawn, now forking the pawn and the bishop, though this pawn was overly forked. He takes the e5 pawn, and I snap the h6 pawn because, you can't be too greedy in chess, and my opponent plays a7, trying to, in a very subtle way, checkmate me, even though he fails in his subtlety, and I play the move c4, not allowing him in his checkmate, but, he still desperately checks me, trying to delay his slow and bitter end. He plays rook to h1, just trying to put up some resistance, even though his position has already crumbled. The pillars are falling, and he's just trying not to get crushed under the roof that is already collapsing upon him. I know I'm sounding a bit dramatic here, but I have to make this content entertaining. Okay, so I go rook to e6. Now I didn't notice this move before. This is a fork. I had this opportunity so long ago, right? The moment I took this, the moment he went here. And actually, the moment never mind, actually. I can't have played it before. Okay, never mind. I got dramatic for no reason. Yeah, because when his rook was here, if I went for this check, he could have just gone here. I mean, this would have still been okay, because then takes, and then just push the pawns, right? As long as he has the rook, he can still put up some resistance. But anyway, I did this check later, won the free bishop, and then, you know, I don't think I need to describe the rest. I ended up pushing the pawns, I even gave up the rook, and I was eventually able to checkmate my opponents. Now, thanks be to the Lord, I was able to make this video 20 minutes long. Some things to reflect about this game. I was using the checklist in this game, but towards the end, you know, I would get excited, and when I felt like victory was near, I just kind of neglected it. So next time I have to use the checklist in a tight and consistent manner. Now, another thing is that I need to think about how, like, there were some times where I would, you know, pose a threat, and I wouldn't really think about how my opponent would defend against that threat, you know? So yeah, I think those are some of the few things that I need to improve on. I'm sure there are other things as well, but yeah, I want to keep this video short and concise. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed this video, and also please follow me on Substack. It would mean a lot to me, and hopefully I will see you guys next time.